All right, let's just jump right in. You ever walk through a big city like New York at night and you just feel something? It's like the city isn't just lit up, it's alive, breathing. Like it knows it's sitting on top of a history that's been buried for a long, long time. Well, the story we're diving into today is about a search for one of those secrets. Not for gold or treasure, but for something way bigger. And this right here, this quote says it all. The person telling this story wasn't looking for a thing. They were hunting for an anomaly. You know, a crack in the official story, a glitch in the history we're all taught to just accept. And that hunt, it all led them to one very specific and very important moment in time. So, where does this crack in history begin? Picture this, a dimly lit private room somewhere in Lower Manhattan. The year is 1868. Around a table, 12 of the most powerful men of their era are gathered for a secret dinner. And their goal, well, it's pretty audacious. They're there to carve up the entire world like it's their own personal property. And of course, a group this secretive needed a name. They called themselves the Zodiac Club. I mean, right away, that name just drips with symbolism, doesn't it? It suggests cosmic power, control, and that symbolism, as it turns out, was everything. Yeah, that number, 12. It was absolutely central to everything they did. 12 members for the 12 signs of the Zodiac. Makes sense, right? But it goes deeper. We're going to find out that their whole plan revolved around a map. A map they split into 12 carefully guarded pieces. Nothing was an accident here. It was all by design. And when I say secret, I mean secret. They had a strict set of rules. Think about this. 6 meetings every year, but they kept 0 minutes. No paper trail, no press, ever. And for sure, no photographs. These guys were basically ghosts. They were set up to pull the strings of history without leaving a single fingerprint. So what were they trying to hide? To even begin to get that, we have to rewind a bit and look at some old maps. After the War of 1812, something really weird starts happening. There was this huge, sprawling territory that was on tons of older maps, a place called Tartaria. And then, poof, it just starts to vanish, fading away from new maps, scrubbed from memory, like a drawing left out in the rain. Now, this didn't happen overnight. No, this was a slow, deliberate, almost surgical erasure. Just look at the timeline. It tells a story. It kicks off in 1812 when the archives in Washington, D.C. go up in flames. For the next 50-plus years, the name Tartaria gets systematically wiped off new maps. Then in 1868, our Zodiac Club has their little dinner to, finalize things. And what happens next? A few years later, massive fires in Chicago and Boston just happen to destroy huge collections of historical records. I mean, come on. It's a pattern, right? A pattern of destruction that creates the perfect opportunity to rewrite history. Okay, so the trail of official documents goes cold. The club was too good at covering its tracks. So where do you look next? You look for those anomalies again. You follow the money, you look at what these 12 guys were actually doing. Their business deals, their pet projects. And when you do that, a really strange pattern starts to emerge from things that seem totally unrelated. And then, a breakthrough. A real, physical clue. An engraving of an 8-pointed star, circled by the 12 signs of the Zodiac. Now you might think, okay, cool, decoration. But it was way more than that. That same star shows up on old maps of Tartaria. But the theory here is that for the club, it meant something else entirely. It was a key, a system of coordinates, a code just waiting to be cracked. So let's look at the first piece of the puzzle, salt. Just salt. One of the 12 club members starts pouring a ton of money into the huge salt mines in upstate New York. Kind of weird, right? For a guy at that level, it's a strange move. Unless, that is, the salt wasn't just a commodity. What if it was a crucial component for something else? Okay, so we have salt. What's next? Domes. Another one of the 12 was a famous builder, and his specialty was really specific. Building these big metal domes on top of major public buildings. You see where this is going? It's another odd, very specific thing that just keeps popping up. The pattern is starting to take shape. And the third clue, electricity. A third member was secretly bankrolling early, cutting-edge research into atmospheric electricity. We're talking way before Tesla made wireless power famous. So let's put it together. Salt, domes, electricity. What on earth do these 3 things have to do with each other? Well, here's the theory. This is how it all supposedly connects. The salt in the ground, that acts like a natural electrolyte. The wet subsoil you find under a lot of cities, that's a natural conductor. And those big metal domes sitting way up high, they could be capturing energy from the atmosphere. So the idea isn't that this was for, turning on light bulbs. The theory is this was a massive hidden network built to store and transmit information, signals, or frequencies. And this is where we get to the absolute heart of it. This is the central idea that changes everything. It completely flips the script on what Tartaria might have been. It's a total paradigm shift. So you've got two completely different ways of looking at this. On one side, you have the standard history book version. Tartaria was just some forgotten empire, a country with borders that got lost to time. But on the other side, you have this wild theory. Tartaria wasn't a country at all. It was a global network of technology, made of nodes, not nations. Think about that. How do you conquer an empire that isn't even a place on a map? And this is where the strategy of the Zodiac Club was just brilliant in a sinister way. See, they knew that if you just burn everything, it makes people suspicious. So they didn't destroy the map of this network. They fragmented it. They broke it into 12 pieces, one for each of them. A single piece of a map doesn't prove anything, does it? It just suggests. It creates a mystery. And a mystery is so much harder to disprove than a solid piece of evidence. Okay, so this is where the story gets really interesting, because it doesn't just stay in the past. The whole point is that the Zodiac Club's project never actually ended back in the 1800s. Their influence, their control, it just evolved. And you can apparently see the legacy today. The family names of those original 12 guys, they didn't disappear. You find them tied to some of the biggest foundations, banks, and universities in the world today. The theory is that the secret dinners and fancy rituals might be different now, but that core idea, 12 powerful nodes guarding a central secret, that structure is still very much in place. Which leads to a pretty chilling thought, doesn't it? What if all the physical pieces of that old network, the salt deep in the earth, the conductive soil, those old domes, what if it's all still here, right under our feet, hidden in plain sight, with all our modern technology, our internet cables and power grids just built right on top of it? A ghost network, an invisible layer to our reality. So we're going to leave you with this final question. The next time you're walking through a big city and you feel that strange vibration coming up through the pavement, just remember this story, because it suggests that the most powerful networks, they don't just get switched off. Maybe they just change their frequency, waiting for someone to tune in again.